Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining Indiaspора's virtual event today on fashioning inclusivity. We are very pleased to have you here. Briefly, before getting started on the panel, I'd like to introduce Indiaspora to those of you who have not had a chance to get to know us. Indiaspora is a not-for-profit organization that brings together a powerful community of Indian origin leaders from across the globe. Our members come from diverse fields and backgrounds, all committed to making a difference and inspiring the Indian diaspora to be a force for good. Indiaspora creates spaces for collaboration, strengthens community ties, and helps catalyze meaningful social change. As a nonpartisan organization, Indiaspora builds bridges between diaspora leaders and leaders in India, and our mission centers on promoting collective action worldwide. Through thoughtfully curated events such as this evening's conversation and impactful initiatives, we are bringing together a geographically, professionally, and generationally diverse community unified in its drive to increase philanthropy, support innovation, and enhance civic and political engagement in a nonpartisan way. Indiaspора's vision is a global Indian diaspora committed to creating lasting positive change. It's an ambitious project, as you can hear. We are very aspirational. We are very excited each time we have these kinds of opportunities to bring unusual voices together. Today is particularly thrilling for many of us in diaspora because this fashion-oriented panel is something we've thought about for a while. So can't thank all the panelists enough for stepping up and giving their time on a relatively short notice also. So thank you all. Now I'm going to invite Jaya to step in. She'll be facilitating the conversation today.
Hello,
Jaya,
everyone.
please introduce yourself and then bring the others on and take this forward. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'm really happy to be a part of this amazing group. My name is Jaya Iyer. I'm the founder of Svaha USA. I'm based out of Virginia. I'd like to invite Priya to introduce herself.
Yes, thank you so much, Jaya, and thank you, Shobha. This is a great opportunity. My name is Priya Israni. I'm based in New Jersey, and my clothing company's name is Priya Israni Label, and I also am a founder for a not-for-profit called TAARA.
Thank you so much, Priya. Roopa, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Roopa Pemmaraju. I run a fashion brand for the last 20 odd years, and I recently created a nonprofit for refugees and asylees and low-income impact immigrants here in New York City. So yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me in the panel.
Tanya, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Couture, founder and CEO of West by East. We are a tech-forward fashion brand that elevates culturally driven silhouettes, and I'm based out of Brooklyn, New York.
Thank you. So to get started, I just want to tell you about my company and how I got started. So my business is Svaha USA. It's an online clothing store. And my story is that I have a background in fashion merchandising, and I was just trying to be a mother and be with my kids when my super aspirational wannabe astronaut daughter decided that she only wanted to wear space themed clothing. And so me being a mother who likes to indulge in, clothing, decided that I was going to buy her all space themed clothing only to realize that there was absolutely nothing available for girls. And of course, I could find them in the boys department, but as a mother who wants her daughter to feel that she can grow up to be whatever she wants to be, I thought it was absolutely not okay to tell her that if she wanted to be an astronaut, it was something meant for boys. And that's what made me decide to start my clothing line. And I wanted to completely shatter the gender stereotype that exists in the apparel industry. So I started off with kids' clothing and have now expanded to clothing for women who always say that I always thought I should wear clothes with dinosaurs on it, but I couldn't find any. So now I make women's dresses with dinosaurs or glow in the dark constellations and a lot of fun things that show that you can be whatever you want to be, whatever your interest is, and wear clothing proudly representing what you love. So that's my story, and I'd like to now invite Priya to talk about her story.
Thank you, Jaya. That's very fascinating. Thank you for sharing. So my love for fashion actually began in Jaipur. I'm from Jaipur, and the first manufacturing unit I established was at 19 years of age when I had zero experience, but big dreams. Found success. I also parallelly was studying psychology, so got my degree in clinical psychology and always wanted to do um, social work. So in between from 19 to now, and I'm not revealing my age, but many, many, many years later, I have supplied to Home Shopping Network QVC, and my latest collection was at Anthropology. And the inspiration actually for my latest collection was primarily my first love would be my not-for-profit, which is TAARA. And what we do through TAARA is we help empower survivors of sex trafficking, both in India and in the US. And also along the way, realize that until we play an active part in preventing sex trafficking from happening in the first place, we're not going to be winning this anytime soon. So, with that intent, then we began the prevention program both in India, and this year itself we'll be working with 16,000 children in India. And we just had an assembly of over 1,000 kids in the US as well. So I wanted to marry that into, because some of our survivors, they expressed interest to get into fashion, and their first vocational skill they found was sewing. So I wanted to create a collection, and I did that. And then Anthropology was the channel that I retailed through.
That's absolutely amazing. Roopa, would you like to tell us your story?
Sure. It's amazing, Priya. So lovely to hear your story. As well, Jaya, yours as well. So
Thank you.
I started the brand in 2012 in Australia. I used to live in Australia since 2005. I was born in India, raised there, and I studied fine arts, and then I studied fashion and textile. But I used to work for different fashion brands. I've seen how the supply chain worked in India and what sort of treatment was given to them in those days. Nothing has changed either, even today. But I wanted to give back something back to the Indian artisans and how they would create these beautiful textiles. I don't think so anywhere in the globe you can find these beauty from India, like hand woven textiles, hand embroidered textiles, silks, brocades, and different kinds of jacquards, and a lot of surface techniques that we see. I wanted to utilize that and how I could still give back to India and still be in a different world and create jobs for them. And that's what I kind of I'm striving to achieve that. One of my biggest orders was from David Jones. They're based in Australia, so we kind of supplied to them. We started from a very small little shop, and we grew that for many different people and many different communities came on board to help us and also develop that. So since 2012 to now, we've been supplying to different department stores and boutiques and different fashion houses for private labeling. The whole idea is to give back jobs to India and other artisan communities across. So that's what it is. And also at the same time, we don't do any much work in machines. So we try and work with a lot of hand-skilled artisans, hand embroidery or hand weaving or different textures and things like that. Recently, since about a year and a half, we've just started a nonprofit where we're supporting artisans here in New York City, where they have these beautiful skills. They're coming from different countries, but they live in shelters or emergency homes or different areas. So we're trying to find jobs for them and how to help them, sustain their livelihood here. So that's our project that we're working towards.
That's
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Would you tell us your story, Tanya?
Yeah, so West by East, the official launch was in 2020. I used my wedding as the launch pad. I conceptualized, designed, and produced 75 custom outfits. It was a major PR play and it worked. It got featured in Over the Moon by Vogue, Bryce, and Bryce Today India. And then we were immediately hit by the pandemic. So we had to shut down production overseas in India. and then started up again, shut it down, started up again. We just didn't know what was happening. And then 2021, I raised a crowdfunding campaign through I Fund Women. It was a way for me to give back to the artisans that we were working with. And the founder and CEO of I Fund Women became our first angel investor. And that gave me the confidence to raise venture capital the following year in 2022. Then last year, I dismantled the whole business model. In the past, it was a lot more high touch with customers. They would get custom 3D renderings, they would get multiple swatches, and it just wasn't a scalable company. And we essentially gave too much power to our customers because everything was ultra customized. And so I did a major rebrand and relaunch with the Times Square billboard and launched a 3D configurator where customers can personalize their garments with precision and ease by selecting their desired silhouette, color, fabric, and see it come alive on screen in seconds before they make a purchase.
Wow, that's amazing story. Thank you so much. So I think next I want to discuss about when you get started, like initial funding, investing, getting investments and all that. So to give you my story, so I grew up in India and I always thought that if you had to start a business, you either had to come from a business family or have a lot of money to invest in a business. That was just my mindset. But when I thought of starting this business, I'm a very risk averse person and I did not want to put in a huge investment. So I decided to go the Kickstarter campaign route because that also tells you whether if you think there's a demand for a product in the market, is it actually something that other people are also looking at? So I launched a Kickstarter campaign with just 5 t-shirts. And I said, if I raise $35,000, then I'm going to actually launch this company. And I managed to raise that money. And I was then able to find a factory in India because my whole background is in fashion merchandising. I did my master's and Ph.D. in fashion merchandising and had, the knowledge of whole manufacturing process. So I was able to get a factory in India and source everything from there and launch my business. And I was able to put back all the money that I earned from the business back into the business. My only investment was my sweat equity. And so when I wanted to grow the business and launch a women's clothing line, I just did a second Kickstarter with the women's clothing. And at that time, I knew how to promote it, how to, get the PR and all of that. And it was even more successful than the kids' clothing, I guess. I mean, women do spend more on themselves than they spend on their children, I guess. So they outgrow them fast, right? So people don't want to pay so much for that. It was a great way for me to be able to put the money back into the business. And I really never looked for an outside investor or in an investment. But I know that that's not possible for everyone, or it's not the story for everyone. So that's something. So if you ever got investors, or how did you initially fund your business? And if you did get investors, was it easy, or what were your challenges is what I'd like to hear from all of you next. So just to switch it up, Roopa, do you want to go first this time?
Sure. So I never approached for investors initially. It was mainly family. And actually, my mom supported me a lot. I needed somebody who could help me, but based in India. So she set up a small supply chain manufacturing setup for me. And now, it's mostly 260 people out there. So somewhere we started really small. But then my mom is from an education background, so she kind of learned on the job to help me set this up because it's really hard when you're overseas and your production is based in India. The whole system has to be really thorough thought process because when you design something and when you ship to a retailer, it has to be almost the same, and there's so many different challenges. So I needed really somebody at the ground where I can trust and I can believe and I can build this. And I think she was my main source to help me do this. We actually grew the business step by step. Family and friends, and then we kind of we had orders come through, and then we kind of rotated the same investment back into the business. So I won't say I'm not really keen in bringing investment because my brand is not something that I really want to, mass produce or create, different numbers and number crunching. I've seen my friends and my colleagues in the industry and how difficult it has been when they bring in investors. So I used to pitch a lot. I used to connect with so many different investors, and I got rejected and nobody didn't connect back to us. So there was so many different situation there when I was dealing things in the other Western world, and then the production is happening in India. So I defocused myself to bring investment, but then when I kept aside, then I said, I don't want to do this investment thing because it's just kind of one, as a woman, you face so much challenges that, they don't believe in you, and coming from a different country, that's another challenge. So, I didn't want to depress myself by, going back and telling them the whole thing. But some people are very lucky, but because my positioning of the brand is very different. It's high end, it's very luxuriously made, it's a slow fashion process. So there's a lot of different techniques that go into it. So it was a bit of a challenge for me. But I do have my own set of community who buy from us. So we are happy with that, and we would like to grow that as we grow. So yeah, that's where I am at. So yeah.
Right. Thank you. Tanya, do you want to tell us?
Yeah, I mentioned I did a crowdfunding campaign, and that was a nice way to get my feet wet because I was just testing it out with
Yeah.
basically all the guests who attended my wedding. Family and friends. I emailed everyone, I texted everyone, I would call them up, I would see them in person and be like, hey, look at my website. And I think I was very careful about the words I use. They're not donating to the business, they're contributing to the business. They're contributing to the success of the business. They're contributing to the success of me. And then I needed funding to grow the business. And yeah, like when I was pitching investors like Roopa, like I think less than 1% of women of color get funding, right? So it was hard for me to really paint the story of like, hey, I'm doing something for the culture. Like this is a completely overlooked and underrepresented market, the South Asian market. Like we spend money on weddings and like cultural events like Diwali and religious events like Eid, but it just wasn't hitting. And then I was talking about the personalized apparel industry, which will be $70 billion by 2028. That wasn't even hitting. And then I added the tech, and that's when the light bulb went off, and they're like, all right, we're interested. And that's when I got believers. But it more than anything, I immersed myself into the startup ecosystem, and I did a multiple accelerator programs, multiple fellowships, and I raised $500,000, which is a mix of dilutive and non-dilutive funding. And that really helped me build the tech that I have right now.
That's so amazing. Such a combination of crowdfunding and getting an investor, being able to sell your story. That's, I guess the tech aspect helps you, right, in being there. All right. So do you want to tell us, Priya?
So, my experience has been very different than all of you. I've actually never had to look outside because I'm not doing it on such a big scale, and neither is my clothing high-end couture almost like Roopa has. She's using beautiful silk fabric. So I've not had to, but also it's because my day gets divided between my not-for-profit and my business. So I am taking it very slow, very organic. So I'm in no rush. I am a little averse to growing fast or to seek funding outside. So I'm not there yet. So therefore, I don't have much to add to this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's fine. So, there's so much research that's been done that shows that when women are founders, the social cause automatically kind of gets like there's a bigger social impact of it. So I can give you a few examples of what I feel like. So whenever I'm creating a product, I'm always looking at, okay, fine, it's educational. The dresses that my Svaha dresses, they always have a story to tell. You can actually, if you're wearing a dress and somebody asks, what's that design? You can actually educate them, tell them that this is, plant cell, the structure of plant cell on the dress, because I actually have a dress that has plant cell on it, right? So you can educate them. That's one way of looking at it. The basis of the companies, right? Like anybody can grow up to be anyone, which I feel like it makes to pick any field that you are interested in. Other than that, whenever I'm creating clothing, for example, I recently made a Braille dress where I got the Braille script embroidered on a dress, so actually a blind person can read it. And whenever I create something like that, I make sure that a percentage of the revenue is donated to an organization that helps, blind people. So I'm always looking for some kind of charity association with my company, and trying to give back. Like during pandemic, yes, my sales had slowed down because people were not going out and so not buying clothing. I immediately looked at how can I help people. And because my customers are a lot of them are educators or they are professional women, I managed to source 35,000 face masks, because at that time there was nobody able to get face masks. They were sold out everywhere. But I had a factory that had just acquired machinery to create face masks. And these are not cloth ones. They're actually that can be used by medical professionals. And I donated $35,000, 35,000 pieces of face masks to hospitals and anybody who wanted it. And that's what my company ended up doing while we were not selling because of the pandemic. So it's, like I feel like I'm always thinking of giving back. And that is something that is somehow associated with a woman being the founder of a company. So, I mean, you've already told different ways, but do you think that you being a woman has an impact, like some kind of social impact, and you being a woman founder, the story that a woman founder has a bigger social impact? Does that resonate with you? Maybe Tanya, would you like to start?
Like you, Jaya, during the pandemic, I worked with a craft cluster in Kerala in Chandamagalam, um, where it was hand-woven cotton mask, and it was part of the crowdfunding campaign. But at the end, I just gave it away for free, and it was a way for me to support these craft clusters because not only they were hit by the pandemic, but there were major flooding that happened twice, and these are elderly people that are keeping the craft alive. And then for me, it's the issue of overconsumption, overproduction. So everything we make is made on demand. We have no inventory, and I'm very mindful about what type of fabrics we use as well. We used to use polyblends because our customers were really price sensitive, but now I just don't believe in it. So everything's now pure silks and satins, and I'm just like that's just really important to me. So that's why part of the business model has changed in the past year.
Yeah, I mean, I know, Priya, your whole concept is having a huge social impact. But do you think that you being a woman founder makes some kind of a difference?
So I think the best example is today. Pretty much all four of us have given back in some capacity. And I think women are nurturers. It just comes
That's me
easier to
too.
us. Even if you're mothers or not mothers, you'll have a niece, you'll have a younger sister. So it's just ingrained probably in us. And my brand it's always been purpose before profit every single time. So absolutely, yeah. But a lot of learning also along the way. I think I launched with such euphoria. I remember tagging each of my designs with, hey, you bought this outfit, you've changed a life. It's helping a sex traffic survivor. And I didn't hear back. It was silence. People bought the entire collection, everything sold out. But I didn't hear back, which was a shock to me because I thought everybody who bought, while they didn't know when they were buying that this is attached to a cause, they would at least after feel good. So that was a little bit of a challenge, I think, for me emotionally. But then I came to realize not everybody has to buy it for that reason. People have all different, roles and responsibilities and likes and dislikes. So I kind of moved past that. But yes, that was an eye opener for me.
Yeah. Well, but the end result is that you were able to, raise the money and that helped someone. So
Absolutely. Yes.
that's amazing. Rupa, would you like to tell us, answer the same question?
Yeah, I have similar stories, but for me, you know, I just give back. I mean, I wouldn't be who I am today without my mom because she has been my biggest support system. So I always, thank her for everything that she is and how she's helped me throughout the years. Like it's so challenging when you're in two different countries and still running a business. Uh, so, this is for one of the retailers, very similar story like all of you. During COVID, we had close to 80 hand embroiders. We didn't know how to help them out. So many people in India were literally committing suicide, farmers were dying, and so many different situations when I'm talking about the real poverty line of people, artisans who don't get enough support, like in the rural areas. So we really work around those areas where how we can help them and how we can sustain that. So one of the retailers, here in the US, we sent them a hand embroidered mask, a silk hand embroidered mask. We actually just sent them a picture, and then they just said, we need 80,000 units. So 80,000 units when everything was shut. India was just getting into COVID. Everything was like getting there. I had to make it happen. I was sitting here. I couldn't fly there. I think my mom was the key person. She made it all happen. We shipped 80,000 units of mask in like maybe about 36 days, 30,
That's
something around that.
amazing.
Because mask is a small piece and hand embroidering is a detailed thing. So after that, I think we supplied to so many retailers. I think we crossed over 500,000 silk masks, hand embroidered. Every publication put it on, like Vogue, and everybody put our mask on it, and our website got crashed. So we had that kind of a situation then when we were all locked out. Like I can't go and help my team. I can't be there. And I still can remember how my mom had to knock doors and get the prints done, get the silk done, and so many people got jobs, right? So that's something that, you know, I just acknowledge so much for women, how she could create this and how she could empower so many others. And, it's there within us, and it's just that how you put that together. So yeah, that's one of the stories that I'm still very proud of.
That is amazing. I cannot imagine in the middle of COVID making that many masks. Hats off to you and your team. I think one more question before we open it up to the questions from the viewers. I think we'll just talk about what has been the biggest challenge, either being a woman founder or just running a business, being a not all of us, I think, not being from this country, like, has there been a learning curve and like what kind of challenges? So I think just to tell you about myself is that I came here to study, and I also worked in the industry here before I started my business. So that actually helped me learn about how different American consumers were than the Indian consumers, because I had worked in retail for a retail chain called Globus in India. I was a buyer for them. And then when I moved here, I came to study, and then I became a buyer for an American retail store. So it helped me. And so that reduced that whole learning curve. I understood an American customer and was able to do. Again, my challenges were not so much like funding and all, because I never looked for it, but my challenges have always been getting the right people who will work for me while I'm here, and then also being able to manage the factories in India with, the time zone differences and all of that. But I have been able to, like, my biggest, I feel like not a challenge, but my biggest achievement, I feel, in some ways, is being able to provide jobs to so many people back home. Because how many ever years I live in this country, my heart will always belong to India. And so I just feel so good about that. So I would say, like, more than just like the challenge, because I've been lucky that way. This is not my first business. I've had three failed businesses before I had a successful business. So it's not always easy to be an entrepreneur. But in this business, I have been lucky. I have been able to work hard and achieve my American dream, as I say, while being able to help people back home in my home country. So maybe if you can tell me something either about a challenge, or you feel is your biggest accomplishment, or which one of the two, if you want to talk about. We'll start with Priya.
Um, so I think for me, I can mention both. The biggest challenge for me, I think, is not being in India. And, like Roopa said, her mom is there and she has implicit faith in her. I don't have that kind of backing. So in the process, I was working with a manufacturer, and that just didn't leave a good taste, because, a little bit regressive thinking, a little bit of, you know, less than respectful conversation and things like that. But there are ways around that. You can find other manufacturers. I'm not there yet, but certainly may not be working with that particular person again. Accomplishment, I think, look, I'm always under the dilemma at the age I'm at. Fashion is good, but it's also wasteful. So I always wanted to make sure that what I produce should be consumed, and that I'm not overproducing and I'm not. So I am very proud that I didn't get into the rat race, and I've held myself back when I needed to, and not get swayed by, oh, let's make this also. And that. So I'm really doing it very consciously, and needless to say, the survivors are the ones that are benefiting. So yes. So for me, it's both of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing balance to be able to achieve, right? Because it's very easy to get into that rat race and maybe move away from what your actual goal is, right? So that's great. Rupa, what about you?
Uh, Very similar, because I don't mass produce any of my products. So I'm not season driven. I'm not trend driven. I'm more about fabrication. I'm more about what is available at that point of time, and I create those products. So even since 2012, whatever I've created is on my website. So if you go onto my website, you don't see seasons, you don't see this is sold out or this is available, nothing. So every product, a customer has to wait for 3 to 4 weeks. And I've created this for years, and it's a win-win situation, because a customer comes back to me and she asks me, okay, this is her fit and this is what she needs, and so I could customize that for her every single time. So there isn't something that I'm creating number of products and I have to go on sale and I have to put them. Also, I don't go on sale. So that's another thing. So I don't give anybody discounts. So it's not needed, because we're creating this product for you. And that's how I've been developed the brand. And for the retailers, I completely tailor it down for their USP and their market and their price point. So when they give us a purchase order is when we go into production. So we don't just waste our products, or we don't create something which has to be mass produced and then given back in different ways. So that's our ethos since the day one. And we always use sustainable fibers. Like, it could be fibers made by banana. It could be fibers made by pineapple. It could be fibers made by rose petals. It could be. So these are our eco-friendly fibers that we always use, and work with communities who hand weave them. So that's always been a way that how we give back jobs. It's not about sustainability, just about the product, but the whole the whole cycle, how it's being created and how it's being made and who's behind the scene and all of that. So that's our biggest ethos for the brand, and that's how I would love to develop. And this is where the challenge comes when it comes to an investor, right? So they want numbers. So I'm not interested in giving them the numbers and creating a brand for them. I would love to create a brand for us and for our customers. So that's where the USP is.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, the
yeah.
thing about sustainability and, becoming a profitable company, it's always a fine balance to achieve. What about you, Tanya?
Yeah, like Rupa said, I don't like doing sales. I think it dilutes the brand immediately, and then customers just always look out for the sale.
That's true.
Uh, yeah, for me, the brand West by East, the definition is born in the West with roots in the East. So I am born in American soil, but uh, being having the Indian heritage is so integral in my lifestyle in terms of like the food I eat, the language that I speak, the religion, as well as the clothes that I wear. Uh, and so my parents moved to Chicago in the late 80s. And my mom's a psych nurse that worked at Cook County Jail. It's one of the most dangerous jails in America. And my dad had a blue collar job as a forklift driver at a steel company. So they worked really, really hard for me. And when I told them that I wanted to start a fashion business, they're just like, why? Why do you want to suffer like us? Um, and then they didn't believe me. They were not my believers. And so when I moved to New York without my parents' blessings, I was trying to find believers, people who just believed in me. So that's why I sought out investors. Um, and at the end, I realized that I just had to believe in myself, and I had to become incredibly relentless to make this happen. And it's okay to fail. I think people need to hear that it's okay to fail, um, because you're not learning if you're not failing. And in this journey, you're going to fail multiple times. But the more you fail, the faster you'll get up, and you just have to keep going.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, a lot of people think that, when you have a successful business, this is how it is. But like I always tell everyone, no, there are a lot of failures that you probably you forget, at some point, or, you don't always talk about, but it's so important for everyone to know that. So I'm going to open it up to the questions that we're getting from people. That are already a whole bunch. So I think what we'll do is, each one of us will tackle one of the questions so we can get through all of them. So who are your role models in both fashion and social entrepreneurship? Roopa, do you want to take that one? No?
It's just my mom.
It's just
So
you.
I told you. So there's nobody else for me who would really be a part of my life right now.
Is there do you have anyone, Priya, who was your social entrepreneurship role model?
So I could tell you, so I grew up in Jaipur and I went to school that belongs to Maharani Gayatri Devi. And if anyone's ever seen her or known about her, she's one of the most beautiful, elegant women. So I saw that, growing up. My mom was very simple, beautiful. As far as fashion's concerned, it was more Maharani Gayatri Devi. So yes, I think in my formative years, seeing that kind of ageless, beautiful person probably influenced me. Social, actually, for social, I would say my mother, and I will share with you my younger brother. When he was born, it was a mistake made at the hospital, and he had cerebral palsy and he had mental retardation. So I think just watching her give so much of herself, even though this is my own brother, but just seeing a human being wrestle with life and wrestle with her career and wrestle with her own emotions and yet be able to give that much for somebody else, I think just opened my heart up. And watching my brother then, it wasn't easy in India, having a sibling like that. There's a lot of, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
lot of comments that come your way. So anyway, those would be my defining moments in life for my work.
Tanya, what got you interested in fashion?
Uh, the real story is that I would go to the libraries as a kid, and my parents thought I was reading I don't know, all the books. I was actually in the corner reading all the fashion magazines and imagining myself being part of this industry. And I just always, I think I just manifested it. Like, how can I be in this world? And I just love clothes, and it's a way for me to express myself. And the tagline for West by East is Elevate Cultural Expression.
Nice.
That's amazing. For me, it was, I think it probably is in my blood. My grandparents actually started the very first tailoring college in the small town that, my family is from. It's called Dharwad. It's in North Karnataka. My grandfather believed, this was like right after independence. He believed that the way to uplift a society is by uplifting women, and also uplifting people who are like, they were like this whole, the lower caste people who were not getting good jobs. He felt that if we uplifted these people, it would uplift the society. And so he started a tailoring college where he only allowed like women or people of lower caste to come to learn sewing skills, so they could then start their own shops. So even today, a lot of shops, tailoring shops that are in my hometown, if I go and tell them whose granddaughter I am, they'll look up to him even today. So I think that's something that's just been in my family, and that kind of it got me into this field, because every summer vacation when I used to go to my grandparents' house, I would learn something new, embroidery or sewing clothes for my dolls and all of that. So it's funny how it all comes back later on in your life at some point. So I think the next question is, how do you balance affordability with ethical production costs? So I know that, Roopa, you spoke about how you change up, without really like still giving employment to the same people who are working for you to make your high-end line, but to be able to make a more affordable line. Can you go tell us a little more about that? Like, how do you do that?
It's very different when, a retailer wants to sell that at a $300 RRP, right? Like when I'm selling something at $2,000 or $1,500, where it's heavily hand embroidered, it's made by silk, and it's made by, hand woven fabrication and stuff like that. Then when a retailer wants to sell that same product into a $300 price point, then our wholesale price points are so different, right? So then I have no choice by giving them something in cotton, which is still a beautifully made cotton, and all of that, and then printed in a way that it's still sustainably printed. And then I don't give them any hand embroidery because there's no cost that is involved in that. And then if I have 5 to 6 meters of fabrication, then we have to cut it down to 2 meters to 2.5, and then stylize that for that particular style. So that's how we kind of work. And then by that way, I could still give jobs to many women and men at the same time. And that's why I would do that. But my high-end brand is always available on my website. So, like I mentioned, so that's why it takes so much time.
Yeah.
If it's a gown or if it's a evening look, then, the hand embroidery needs 2 to 3 weeks of time, and then all of that. So there are two different processes. For a retailer, then we get 3 months to 6 months to create that product. And yeah, so it's different buyers who need for what, and then we give it to them. But then, like as you said, when it's produced in India, we have a lot of challenges, right? So they always ask it, they want it for a price that they want it for. They don't understand what it goes through. So that's one of the challenges that I've faced over the years. The minute they know it's a brand name, is coming from a different country, and you know where it's coming from, where you get cheap labor. So everything is coming back to the same thing. I have seen the retailer ask me for such a cheap price. When they see the silk, they don't understand the quality.
Yeah.
I would say that American buyers, very little people know the knowledge about silk and cotton and whatever fabrication, the textile, hand embroidery. And when you show them a crochet piece, it's all handmade in
Yeah.
south of India, right? and they want it at a machine made cost, I really cannot do that. And I would not be doing justice to the people who are creating it. So we always have challenges, and then I have to leave those orders, not to accept it, because you're not going to do justice to anyone. So these kind of challenges always come by, and I wish there was something like tech involved in this. Like everybody wants the piece in one day, and they want it to be shipped in one day. So
Yeah.
it's not possible. So that's why the challenges are so different in fashion. So
Yeah. Very true. There's so much goes into making a garment. People don't understand it. Like all the clothes that I sell are all made of 100% organic cotton. So when people look at the price of a dress, they'll be like, why is this so expensive? I was like, okay, well, it's organic cotton. And then if you make something with polyester, obviously it's going to be cheaper, but people have to, it's very difficult to educate. And then they say it's very expensive, but then they also saying, wait, why is it made in India? Why is it not made in USA? I'm like, well, if I made it in USA, it'll probably be 3 times this price. Are you willing to pay that? They don't want to pay that either. So I just say, you know what? We make sure that it's ethically made. Our factories have certification. So as long as that is taken care of, you're buying something that's not using child labor or not using sweatshop conditions. It's still hard to explain that to a consumer. So the next question is, what is something you would like to call out as a truly unusual innovation or idea by someone in the fashion business? So maybe Tanya, you can take it since you also have a very innovative product. Is there something that you have seen that you feel like, wow, this is amazingly innovative?
The fact that using AI, you could design a full collection, I think that's incredible. Or even just like ideating on the initial collection by having AI create it. And then from there, you can kind of tinker from it and adjust it to whatever your brand DNA is. I do think AI is going to become embedded in fashion sooner than later. I mean, we're already seeing it with 3D renderings instead of like hand or 2D sketches. You see the 3D version, and you can instantly change design preferences. So that's what I think. It's the
Awesome.
future. AI is here to stay. It's not
Yes,
going anywhere.
for sure.
So just embrace it.
So this question is specifically for Roopa. How do you educate people about different fabrics and embroideries? Like on your website, do you have information? Do you conduct sessions, or like is there something in specific that you do?
So when a customer buys a high-end product, so we basically send out videos, we send out images. So, we ask them to come on Zoom call to see how it's made if they're interested. So many of the customers have liked it, especially, they want to see how it's being made or who's making it, or, where the product is, like where the textile is coming from. So we have a huge list of things that we send out to the customer when they order in. So, like where it's made, how it's made, and if you want to be the part of the process, if you want to know exactly what stages it is, we welcome them. We show them our artisan making in India. So they kind of really get involved in that and understand what it is. And also for people on our website, we have a lot of blogs and Instagram stories, and at the same time, giving them, once the product is sent to the customer, then they have a whole story about how it's made and what's made. So it's a very one-on-one, because not many people, they don't care. They just want a product. They just want something that's something different. They want to wear it. And some people are very, very cautious. They want to wear it, repeat it again and again. Many of my Australian customers come back to me to change the color. We have given them those choice, like, we would re-dye them, recreate them, repurpose them. So we've done all of those in the past as well. So that's when you're a very conscious customer. So not every customer are in that phase. We would love to have everybody to know how it's made, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important because one of the most common questions I get about fabric is that, so I say that my clothes can be put in the washer, dryer, they don't need dry cleaning and ironing because it's 100% organic cotton. And then they're like, wait, but organic cotton fabric it will wrinkle when you wash it. And I'm like, no, but my fabric is a knitted fabric. So they're like, wait, what does that mean? So I have to say, the t-shirt that you wear. So my clothes are made of knitted fabric. T-shirts you never have to iron, and that's what my dresses are because I hate ironing. So I always make sure that all my clothes are made with knitted fabric. So I think we have very little time left, and I don't think there are any other questions. So I want us to like just go around for the last time to talk about um, what would you say to somebody who wants to just start out and wants to, do you have any words of advice or like who do they, is there any group that you follow that has some mentorship or anything else that you'd like to talk about? So, Priya, do you want to start?
I almost feel inadequate to answer that, but I just think that times are changing so rapidly. But, people like Tanya who are, younger and more into tech and ahead of the times. I think it may be imperative for anyone getting into any kind of business now to have the know-how, I think, of how AI works. I still think that it should be conscious fashion going forward. I think there's already enough clothes for people to wear. So, and mentors, I think you can find today it's so much easier. You find mentors online. In fact, I keep going back to my not-for-profit, but we actually that's what we do. We line up mentors for our survivors. So it's very easy nowadays via Zoom. You can find on YouTube and so on. So yeah, knowledge is just at your hands nowadays. So
That's awesome. Tanya, what about you?
Uh, yeah, I would say join organizations that's specific in your industry. Like I'm a Tory Burch Fellow, I'm a Vital Voice Fellow. Obviously, I've done multiple accelerated programs, and then like really build those relationships. You can find mentors there. You can find advisors to join your advisory board for your business. And then most importantly, the peer mentorship, right? Like all these other founders who are in the same boat, like you want to help each other. And then finding folks who are also ahead of you, because a lot of times they can foresee what's going to happen, or they can make introductions to investors. They can tell you which investors to avoid. Like they can help you
Yes.
strategize. They can help you with the marketing, and always try to figure out how you can give back and not just take. Like how I always ask, like, how can I help? What do you need help with? Like I can, and if I maintain that relationship, I think of that person if I think they should be connecting with someone else. So I'm really here for just building connection with everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. What about you, Rupa? What would you like to tell someone who's just starting out?
I think the purpose is very important. Today fashion brands are just coming up, like everybody wants to have a brand, a purpose and things, but then it's all about how you make it and how you give back. So I think it has to kind of connect a lot in where it's made and who's making it. For me, it's like, as I mentioned earlier, it's the whole purpose, right? Like it's not just about the product, it's about who's making it and how you give back to that person who's making it as well. So today, the world is so open, like how Tanya is talking about AI. So everybody could create a beautiful product through AI and, still don't waste making each of the sample and creating hundreds of sampling. And then, usually the buyers, the retailers don't buy your entire collection, right? They only buy certain pieces. So then, you could focus on what you really want to make and how you make it. And, don't bring too many products to the market until unless you understand who's your customer, who's your community, and then work towards that. So for me, that's very important. And that's what I've learned over the years. And also pay your makers the right wages, right? So I have seen that in New York City. we as South Asians, we are still struggling. Our artisans who are in the garment industry are still getting paid really low as $2. So that's really something that I am really not into. I mean, it's our own big designers who are creating this and, not giving back. So I don't want the new Gen Zs or the new people doing this, right? Respect back and give back because they are making the product. It's not just about you making the money, it's about everybody, right, in the business. So for us, the Refugee Atelier is what we're developing, and that's why we are trying to give back to people who have, kind of telling the industry at least give the right wages, give the minimum wages. Just don't see the color, see the people who is behind the purpose. So that's what I would say.
That's amazing. That's so important, right? Like everybody needs to make the money and be able to live a comfortable life. So for me, I always feel like everybody's scared, to start something new, to start a business. But I always tell that if you believe that you have an idea that is unique enough and you have a purpose attached to that idea that drives you and probably also interests the people who you're targeting, that's the best way to start a business. Because if you have that purpose and you are passionate about doing something, nothing in the world can stop you. So, like, for example, I have a whole bunch of customers who came up to me and said that, we love your clothes, but they never spoil. And we hate like throwing them away, or like, we cannot buy new stuff. And so they asked me for permission to start a secondhand selling page. So I said, they said that would that bother you because it's obviously taking away from your sale and somebody's buying a used product. I said, no, but that's so good for sustainability, right? Like it's so good for the environment that those clothes are not going into landfill. So I absolutely encourage that. And now I actually have a humongous group of people who are buying used clothing. And I'm like, okay, good. If you sell your used clothing, then you'll come back to me to buy new clothing too. So it's good for me and good for the environment. So I absolutely encourage that. So I think and about mentor, initially I was able to join this group called Women Founders Unite. And that group it's a lot more tech people, but there are enough, founders who are in clothing industry and all of that. I mean, I wish there was a specific group that was only for clothing founders. Maybe we can all get together and make one. But I think that it's so much, it can make so much of an impact just being able to work together with other founders. You learn from them, they learn from you. And I mean, I already have ideas about how I can collaborate with all of you to maybe give back more, right? Like to people back home or people here too. So I think that's something we can all do. Before we end, we just have another minute left. Do you just want to give us the website I think somebody already shared all the website links on the chat, but maybe like of your non-for-profit, what is the website? If you can just quickly tell me, Priya.
I'll just put it in. It's TAARA, TAARA.org.
Okay. So if people want to see what you have the fashion business and what else you want to do, it's there. And what about you, Roopa? You muted. Did you also post the link here on the chat?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
on
she
the
did.
chat there.
Okay, perfect. So for all of you who are listening, if you want to see our clothing line, the links are on the chat, and then also the non-for-profit that everybody's a part of. Thank you so much. It was so awesome talking to all of you, learning so much about everyone. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaya.
Thank you.
It was
Hey,
really
Jaya. You did great.
Thank
well.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jaya, Priya, Tanya, and Rupa. Such a pleasure hearing your talk. And you educated many of us in a space that we don't know much about other than the beautiful clothes that come out at the end
Yeah,
of
this
it.
this can be my part-time job. Do you need somebody else as a panelist? I enjoyed doing this.
I'm delighted you enjoyed doing it. It came through, and all of your stories were so real and they were so different. So it is such a pleasure to know various paths you have taken to being where you are, and how I heard the word passion and purpose multiple times, and my day is made. That's what we want these panels to be about. So thank you, and we look forward to having continued conversations. And Tanya, this was something I've been meaning to ask you. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Kotor, Tanya Kotor.
I was wondering whether you got into fashion because your name is so
No,
difficult.
it's actually my husband's name. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, but, and the
But it further
internal.
inspired her.
Further, so when we were having internal chats as the conversation was going on, one of the things Indiaspora does do a lot of work is in the AI space and AI related programming. So when Tanya was saying AI is here to say, we were saying no matter what we talk about, we come around to AI in some ways. So we look forward to hearing the different directions your businesses take and your not-for-profits take. And if you end up using AI, well and good. And our community has a lot of people with a lot of rich talent in that space too. But you stand and represent something that is unique and special, and we are very delighted you were able to make the time to join us this evening and to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for the
you for
opportunity.
inviting us, and thank you for making this happen.
Wonderful.
Have
Take
Have
care.
a wonderful time in India. So thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. I hope to be in touch with all of you.
Let's do that. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.